Our world is exciting and mysterious. I share my stories of my adventures with you. Welcome to Igor Travels the World. Hi guys, this is the Church of St. Marianos. It was built between 570 and 749 AD, and that is a perfectly intact mosaic floor behind me. So we are now entering the hippodrome, which was used for about 500 years, and for chariot races at first, and then for gladiator fights. So you can just imagine chariots here, fighters ready to go. Later on, the gladiators in the 4th century. Crowd watching and waiting, sitting up there. And the brutal battle that began and ended here. Now, of all the hippodromes and of all the chariot kind of areas and for races and stuff, the sign said this was the smallest one in the Roman Empire. Feels large though. When you're here, it feels rather large.
Now, on either side here, you have got two defensive towers. See the two towers? They've been partially restored, and they were built originally from reused blocks. You can still see some of the blocks have some work on them. This is from reusing them from a door top or something. They would have been 9 meters or so higher than what you're seeing. Wow. And the walls begin from this point onwards. If you look up there, you see where the fence is? The fence is running with the wall. The wall is right beneath the fence. Where the fence makes a turn, beneath it, for example, that corner used to be another tower. You see the blocks there. Very well fortified. They estimate the wall to be a little less than 4 kilometers long.
Wow.
They estimate that it was originally built out of 2 million blocks, the wall alone.
Wow.
It was a very well fortified city. Join me
here.
The building to our left, this wall you're seeing, this is just a small portion of a huge complex, which is the Temple of Zeus. Now, this wall behind it is basically hiding a barreled vault, like that vault, a little bit bigger than that, running the entire length of this building. These are basically windows letting light and ventilation for air and whatnot. You don't want this huge amount of space to be fully sealed. At the same time, above it, it's supporting that. You see that level? That level is the level of the courtyard of the Temple of Zeus. The courtyard is the Temenus, they call it. That's where people actually gathered. That's where the prayers were held, the sacrifices were held. I mentioned it. Later in our tour, we'll be walking in this courtyard level, coming back. But the main entrance was up there. See people walking down above the arch. That's the main entrance, and it's accessed through this plaza we're about to see. This is the main forum. See the columns? Makes an oval-shaped plaza, which is downtown Jerash.
Fantastic.
This is what we know as the Oval Plaza. We call it the Oval Plaza. It's known as the Forum. It's called the Piazza. This is effectively the city square, downtown Jerash. This is where people would typically meet, socialize. Announcements would be made here in such a place. They would honor their patron goddess. They think a statue of her would stand in the middle instead of that column you see now. She would probably stand there. She would be honored in this public space. And it's also a functional space. It's a hub, connects the city together. Soon we'll be walking through the main street, for example. That's where it begins, the Cardo Maximus. But also, there are bigger gaps between some of the columns. See that one? And another one here. They take it, these might have been, most likely, streets narrow side streets leading out into that part, which seems to be a residential part probably, and a ramp. You know, before the signpost, the ramp actually does still take you to the theater, which it probably did back then. And of course, right here behind us is the main entrance, is the entrance to the Temple of Zeus complex. Now you're seeing the temple itself, the body up there. That's the building that housed the statue, right? It would be roofed. The roof is missing, but it would be a triangular pediment of a roof, typical for temples in Greek-Roman tradition. And connecting the temple level down to this level was a huge staircase as wide as the temple. And people, I remind you, would be down here. Nobody was allowed inside the temple. That was completely out of reach. Yani, high priest would deliver a few words from the front porch, that sort of thing. But people would be down here definitely.
Where's the statue now? Was it destroyed?
It's long gone. So it's unfortunate. Yes, it is long gone. We don't really know exactly when it was destroyed. It's just unknown. But you have to keep in mind the city didn't end abruptly. It was one people after another, and there was a transition from prime Roman times to, for example, Byzantine times, and that meant there was a transition in tradition. There was an amount of topsoil. If you look at the color difference in the columns, see how the bottom is whiter than the top? You get this white level. That's the soil level that covered this ground. We're talking about, in some cases, 1 meter to 2-3 meters of soil. Other parts we'll see inside 5-6 meters of soil covering this ground. Now, some of the buildings that were higher up were almost fully exposed, but a lot of them were not. A lot of this, for example, was buried.
What happened? The people just left and decided.
Ultimately, yeah. Ultimately, they take it comfortably by the 9th century AD, late 9th century AD, people have almost entirely abandoned the city. There were many reasons, of course. You could expect there to be good reasons for some people to abandon a city like this. Earthquakes did a lot of damage. It's classical in the area, but also an important trade shift. The city of Jerash, Petra, Amman, you name it, all the inland cities in this part of the world depended on land trade. That was one of their major sources of income. And for a good period of time, land trade was the #1 trade. It was the predominant, it was the most common. So they were very successful, they were very prosperous based on land trade. But then later in the 7th century, later into the 8th century as well, there was a huge shift towards sea trade. Became more advanced, technologies became better for sea trade, became safer, and it became the standard way of trade. So these deep inland cities were not getting the money they used to get. They were not getting the business they used to get. That also led to the decline, especially financially. And that financially means a lot.
Yeah.
See, the pavement here is in such an excellent condition. Apart from these, they take it, that's where water would be running, feeding the fountain, and another maybe draining the fountain. The fountain itself is missing an important piece. There would be like a big bowl, a basin placed on top. It would overflow, water would run out. They think even the shape was redone. When you see the cross now, they think this was redone in Byzantine times into a Maltese cross.
I see it.
They think originally it was an octagon, just like the shape of the plaza. So it's an open space, a roofed corridor, and then beyond that you have shops. You'll be seeing where those people are. That's one of the best preserved shops in the city. Where you can still see the furniture.
Really? That's amazing.
Here's a sample of what used to be in these. You see, it's a rock in this case. It's a harder rock. It's a marble in this case. See, it's a marble. And these would be nails or pegs, you can imagine them, fixed into the wall, sticking out, and used to attach a whole, in this case, marble surface to this wall. And I think it was also covered with a marble surface. Beauty, decor, but also practicality. This is a butcher's shop, and blood, and you can get very gutty.
Easy to clean.
Yes, exactly. Like we do today, and use granite and marble in kitchens.
Fantastic.
This is a word separator. In Old Greek, you can use a space, a dot. You'll see variety of this. Sometimes no spaces, and sometimes a personalized emoticon. This is the first one.
Yes. Ancient emoji.
Emoji.
That's funny.
Your English is North American, is it? It's a sec. An entrance, a gate. The wall continues to that end. Can you see the building is closer from that end than it is from that end? Building is turned.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes,
It's
yes.
also highlighted in the signpost over there, the fact that it's turned. This is very crucial, very, very key in this building, since this building, unlike the planning of the city, needs to be facing proper south, that way, to be exact. And that's the direction to Mecca. A mosque, an ancient mosque. This was built after the mid 600s, which is after the Islamic world took over. They think by the early 700s maybe. One of two in the city. This is the biggest, and it's built here for the same reason the Romans probably had a fancy marketplace. This is a major intersection. The main street is intersected by a side street, a decumanos, coming in east-west. Very easily accessible, very busy, very witnessed. All good reasons to have a market and a mosque. Right now you've seen east-west, you came in from the south and you're looking at north. So this size you've experienced, this is still regarded as middle size, medium size. It's not big, it's medium. See maybe 20,000 tops. And here this is in the middle, very ornate. The top carvings are some of the most detailed and intricate and just fine details you'll see in the city. Look at the floral designs you see up there. And even the features, they're miniature features, they're miniature broken pediments, they call them. Very ornate. All the niches, Allah barak feek, had statues standing in them, mostly, probably. Especially the bottom ones. The bottom ones where you have the holes, that's where water would be providing these statues with water, or ducts, sorry, with water, feeding these statues, which were looking like they were carrying a vase, a vessel, pouring water out. But very, very well done, very well engineered. And then there's a basin to collect that water, and then another series of fountains down here. Very elaborate fountain. To be a place where you can enjoy the water and sounds, maybe even lights. Maybe they had lamps as well fixed into this facade.
And
It's basically a facade.
All the water's from underground aquifers.
It's a spring water. It's a spring water source. It's a little bit north of the city, just a few kilometers, and ducts would be bringing it in. Yeah.
Okay.
See the angle. Now you can imagine this upside down. This is a triangular pediment, such, and the designs here, you maybe remember them from other Roman cities. There are a variety of the same thing repeated, but roughly known as the egg and dart design. Egg and dart, you can see why it's called egg and dart. It's a symbol of fertility, the egg, regeneration, and hunt. Now it's a common Roman motif. It's not just here, it's not exclusive, but here it used to be definitely more meaningful, since it decorates the entrance to the temple of Artemis, and she's the patron of the city and a goddess of hunt and fertility, so it's very meaningful. This, they think, sat on top of the 4 tall columns, most likely top 4 columns, so that the pediment from one end going down to the far end. In the middle, supporting the pediment, was an arch laid down right there on the ground now. We'll take a look at that soon. And this arrangement of a pediment and arch would work all the way back to the gateway itself. That soon we'll be looking right through it. The staircase takes you up to the temple. That's the actual gateway. Right? Here these shops seem to have provided a service for the temple complex. Maybe they think they were government supply shops offering things that were necessary for the ceremony. This is a fact. In the Roman times, as a Roman, you couldn't participate unless you offered a gift. It was a requirement. So obviously there was a big business on that. It seems to have been the places that provided the gifts and the offerings and whatever it is people needed. They would walk in dressed their best, and they would have frankincense to burn. They had all kinds of ceremonies where products were involved, one thing or another. touched here is a staircase, and that's just to make it in and out easy. Usually we'll spend a few minutes inside. This is a midway place, good overview of the area around it, and they've got some coffee, hopefully. It was also covered with a white interior, help let it glow more. And the space I mentioned beneath us does support the whole temple. The whole temple is actually built on top of this space. 3 barreled vaults running the entire length. These blocks are huge.
Yeah.
And from here all the way down to the main street we were walking on earlier, is the Cathedral complex. This is the main sort of Christian complex of the city. It includes the church in front of us, but also a courtyard, a fountain, a residential area, they think probably for the clergy, even a small bathhouse, and it is a huge complex. This particular church is Church of Saint Theodore. It's the biggest. You can see the size just by looking at it. This size. This is the biggest in the city, but it's also the oldest. It dates back to the late 400s AD, and they think it was reused recycled from an earlier Roman building. Even the columns that are standing, they take it. They belong to a Roman temple. So a third temple thus far: Zeus, Artemis, and then here they think it was the temple of Dionysus, god of wine, drama. هاشم كيف حالك؟ أهلا. من جيرانكو؟ أهلا وسهلا. You have to try it. I know the young boy.
Okay.
Welcome, Igor.
Hello. Oh wow, you can.
It's the place to stand when you might capture it. I don't know if you will.
But
the
it
perfect
actually,
echo you're getting.
Yeah, it actually feels like there's a microphone. Yeah. This is crazy. It feels like there's a microphone and speakers right next to it.
Yeah, it was intended to have an amplification effect. Wow. This is called the orchestra, and when there was an event, they think a narrator would stand right there where you're standing and speak to the audience. It would work. It should have worked both ways too. You could easily listen to the audience.
Wow.
I'm Nader.
Where
from?
Prague, Czech Republic.
Wake up, come on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
العافية.
Testing the acoustics. 1, 2, 3. Testing. See, here you won't notice it as much. You can still hear it. But here, it literally sounds like I got a microphone and there's speakers right here, which is crazy.
Non-symmetrical, which is unheard of in the Roman tradition.
Yeah,
you will not see another one. This side is quite different than the other. This one is more opened up. This one is more circular. It follows an oval shape. This is more circular. It's accommodating the features around it. So it's accommodating the entrance to Zeus, and it's accommodating the road, the ramp to the theater. And it's a funnel delivering you to the main street. You know how we talked about how the orientation is different. So the south gate with the Hadrians is one way, and then you're directed elsewhere. That gives it a smooth funneling effect.